Hello everyone. We are Unikl Business School student. Our lecture name is Insik Armin, and we are from class IB 30 group number 4. We have 5 members in our group.
My name is Afiq.
My name is Poogenes.
Is Fadzir.
And my name is Syafiqah.
We will presenting about legal issues of international price.
Pricing is the process of defining what a business will get in return for its products at its most basic levels. Pricing is the only income aspect in the marketing mix, as one of the 4 Ps. Production costs, marketplace, competition, market condition, and product quality, distribution networks, nation variables, and corporate factors all influence worldwide price of a product, Alone and Jaffe 2013. Global sourcing choices, according to Clark and Wilson, 2009, must additionally include tariffs, quotas, local taxes, subsidies, grants, currency exchange, rates, local purchasing power, and local company and customer behavior. It needs marketers to recognize that not all customers want to pay the same price for a product, just as not all purchasers desire the same product, distribution networks, or advertising messaging. As a result, markets must discriminate between diverse market sectors in order to price things properly. If trades are to take place, marketers must first understand their customers and price their items accordingly. However, it is important to remember that the price must be sufficient to sustain the organization's aims, including satisfying investors. Although determining global pricing is typically a marketing choice, doing it successfully necessitates an awareness of both the customers' and society's perspectives on price. Price setting is, in some ways, the most essential choice a company makes. A pricing that is set too low may result in a revenue shortfall and the company's downfall.
Hello, my name is Anis. Now I would like to present about the law of tariff. What the act related to the law of tariff. The Tariff Act is known as the Smoot-Hawley Act. Officially, United States Tariff Act was created in 1930. Smoot-Hawley was a United States legislature on June 17, 1930 that had already raised import duties to protect American business and farmer. This could add great pressure to the international economic climate in enduring a major recession. Next is I would like to talk about the definition law of tariff. Tariffs are taxes government imposed tariff on products and service that raise prices and make import less desirable or at the very least less competitive than domestic goods and services. Next, about the conceptual structure is reflected in the way the legal text. Conceptual structure divided with 2 sections, which is 1A. 1A is containing the revised General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. For the other agreement involve governing trade in goods, and a protocol which ties an individual country-specific commitment on goods. And regarding 1B is about general agreement of trade and service. Text is the specific service sector and individual country-specific and commitment and exemption. Next slide is about the main purpose of tariff law. Number 1 is generate revenue. Revenue function was one of the most important justification imposing taxes, but as economics evolved and domestic tax system have become more systematic. Other than that, revenue function to arises from the fact that tariff revenue offers a source of funding for government. Number 2 is safeguard domestic industry. By alerting the condition under which goods compete in such a manner that competitive imports are pushed to be margin of ugliness. And lastly, number 3 is about the correct trade imbalance. Tariff quota are sometimes employed to strike a balance between market access and domestic sector protection. Next is about the effect of tariff law. First effect regarding to raise domestic pricing in the country imposed tariff. Second, regarding price increase in import and export product. This happened because tariff created gap between prices in import and export country. This has in turn caused the production of supplies to increase in the importing country while consumption of falling demand, which is the essence of the industrial protection function for tariff. Last but not least, the effect is causes the small countries defined for our purposes as a country that is not has an influence on international prices. The increase in domestic prices is equivalent to the amount of tariff. For the last slide is about the good impact of tariff law pricing. Imported goods are more expensive due to tariff. As a result of the greater competition, domestic manufacturers are not forced to lower their prices and domestic consumer are charged higher prices as a consequence open that will not exist in a more competitive market. Niche, the greater competition. When a tariff or other pricing rising measure is applied, the result is higher pricing and lower import volume. The graphs show the price increase from non-tariff P2P. As a result of the growing price, more local manufacturers are eager to produce the good, pushing quantity demand to the right. It's also moved to the left of QW. As a result of entire effect.
Hello, next I will presenting about transfer pricing. What is transfer pricing? Transfer pricing refers to the prices of goods and services that are exchanged between companies under common control. For example, if a subsidiary company sells goods or renders services to its holding company or a sister company, the price charged is referred to as the transfer price. Concept in transfer pricing. First concept is arm's length, the price charged in a transaction between unrelated parties. Second concept is transfer pricing, the price charged in a transaction between two associated enterprises. Third concept is uncontrolled transaction, the transaction between two unrelated parties. And the final concept is controlled transaction, is the transaction between two associated enterprises or related parties. The legal environment. Domestic transfer pricing is allocation of expenditure, which is incurred for services or facility availed, between two/more A's. Computation of income from such specified domestic transactions and allowance of any interest or any other expense with regard to such specified domestic transactions. Next, principles and obligations under tax treaties. The objective of a tax treaty, broadly stated, is to facilitate cross-border trade and investment by eliminating the tax impediments to these cross-border flows. This broad objective is supplemented by several more specific, operational objectives. The burden of proof within a transfer pricing context is no different from the dialectics the taxpayer and the tax authorities with regard to other taxation cases. Tax authorities have to substantiate higher income items, while the taxpayer is required to prove all the factual bases that reduce the tax burden. A safe harbor in a transfer pricing regime is a provision that applies to a defined category of taxpayers or transactions and that relieves eligible taxpayers from certain obligations otherwise imposed by a country's general transfer pricing rules. An advance pricing agreement, APA, is an ahead-of-time agreement between a taxpayer and a tax authority on an appropriate transfer pricing methodology, TPM, for a set of transactions at issue over a fixed period of time, called covered transactions. Dispute resolution or dispute settlement is the process of resolving disputes between parties. The term dispute resolution is sometimes used interchangeably with conflict resolution, although conflicts are generally more deep-rooted and lengthy than disputes. Next, the 5 method of transfer pricing. First is comparable uncontrolled price method. Second is cost-plus method. Third is resale price method. Fourth is transactional net margin method, TNMM, and the final is profit split method.
Hi, I am Afiq. I'll be explaining about countertrade. Countertrade, in any form, allows countries with limited access to liquid funds to exchange goods and services. Countertrade is a component of a larger import and export strategy that ensures a country with limited domestic resources has access to needed items and raw materials.
However, countertrade may come into contact with goods that the firm are unfamiliar with, could result in all sorts of legal issues and hassle.
Countertrade can be in form of bartering, counter-purchase, offset agreement, switch trading, buyback and compensation trade. I am thinking what acts are related to countertrade.
Acts related to countertrade are General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade took over by World Trade Organization and Anti-Dumping Law, Countervailing Duty Law, Escape Clause and Trade Act 1974.
Subsidies make it cheaper to produce certain commodities than it would be on the open market. As a result, domestic pricing is less expensive. Tariffs and subsidies both raise the price of imported products relative to domestic goods, limiting imports. Agriculture can be seen as the most egregious violation of GATT principles. Agriculture is perhaps the most likely source of current trade tensions. The United States has long advocated for a reduction in European agricultural protectionism. The Principle of Most Favored Nation, MFN, prohibits discrimination between the products of different contracting parties. Article 11 of the GATT prohibits restrictions on imports and exports, with the exception of duties, taxes, or other charges.
Countertrade has the advantage of preserving foreign currency, which is important for cash-strapped countries, including increased economic growth and ease of entry into difficult markets.
Opportunities for trade advancement, as well as changing terms and conditions imposed by developing countries, may result in market discrimination. Countertrade is a packaged method of obtaining secured trade finance, not a method of trading without cash. The direct approach removes a layer between the producer and the final customer, so there is no need to wait. The next pricing strategies and tactics is the price wars.
Price wars referring to the situation if two or more business company that significantly cutting their price whenever their competitors selling at cheaper price than the market value. Besides, the other factor that influence the price war is because of the penetration pricing, in which price tagging of products are initially being set low as compared to the product type, such as general use products and product that have an easy access to the market consumers. Implementing this price war into a business for long term, it can be good towards creating a strong brand image and dominate the market as the business at offering the lowest price compared to others' brand. However, if the business not planning their cost properly, they might lose more money as they sell the price cheaper than production cost, which also can leads to insolvency. 3 Act of law that price wars violates, which is the Sherman Antitrust Act 1890, Federal Trade Commission Act and Clayton Antitrust Act. The Sherman Antitrust Act has outlawed the monopolistics First Act rules and the business practices during 1890 that highlights the situations of in the form of trust or otherwise that was in restraint of commerce among several states or within the foreign nations. The Federal Trade Commission Act has outlawed the Act on Unfairness Method of Competition and Unfair Act as well business practices that affecting business reputation. Lastly, the Clayton Antitrust Act is an additional regime from the Federal Trade Commission Act that seeks to curb the anti-competitiveness practices and their incipiency. Now we moving on into the effect of price wars and their advantages. Firstly, the business that applied this price wars will beneficial the customers as they can bargain the high-end price in a lower price such as luxurious cars. The second advantage is the business can generate more income as they will have more sales revenue. This is because the customers are most likely to like products that have a cheaper price, which also leads to changing in purchasing behavior. Last but not least is they can gain trust from the investors because the investors sees the business potential which more stable and reliable. The next effect is the disadvantages of price wars practices for the business commerce, as they might face the situation of need to reduce the quality of the product to cut more production costs so that they can sell the product at cheaper price. The next disadvantage is the business might facing the long-term price expectations from the customer.
By knowing the law, it is also can be the guidelines for every business organizations to ensure that their products and business practices comply with the guidelines by the law, as if they failed to obey the rules, they might be punished for the misconduct in business practices, especially when it's relating to the sudden changes price of goods and BSP.
Thank you.